Hello and welcome to Brewers Daily, part of the Fan Arch Podcast Network. This episode is brought to you by Kalshi. Use promo code FANARCHBASEBALL to get $10 when you trade 10. Lots to get to here on a Tuesday after a Monday Brewers victory over the St. Louis Cardinals. We always love those. We always love victory Mondays, victory Tuesdays over the St. Louis Cardinals. Hate that organization. Very tired of them. But the Brewers get the win. Late comeback victory for the Crew. Doubleheader today. We'll get to that as well. Also, we'll kind of get to look into the trade conversation. The Athletic putting out there a trade target possibility here for the Milwaukee Brewers. We'll get into that. Also, an injury to the Brewers infield, but the Brewers getting the 4-3 victory over the St. Louis Cardinals. Shane Drowan really kind of battled there for a little bit. There's an error by Bryce Terang that led to a very long inning. The Cardinals go up 2-0 over the Crew. And they're able to grab the lead there. But Drowan being able to battle through, make it through 6 innings, and pitch very efficiently after that. And then turning it over, Chad Patrick pitching well, and Trevor Megill back to the dominant force that really everyone expected him to be. He had that little bit of a hiccup in early May, but since then, Megill has been lights out and being able to get the comeback win. You get the big hits. David Hamilton comes through with a 2 RBI double with the bases loaded, and then Bryce Terang also ends up coming through with a big 2 RBI base knock, put the Brewers up 4-3 over St. Louis, and they were able to keep that lead. From there, it was able to be enough, and they were able to get the win in this game. So you get the big hits late in the game, and the Brewers get that comeback victory. But it does come at a bit of a price here because you do lose David Hamilton to a left hamstring injury. Pat Murphy indicating post-game that it is likely to be an IL stint for David Hamilton in his, kind of typical Murph-ish way. And, just talking about, it's like, look, the hamstrings, they generally take a little bit of time. We're going to end up giving him some time here. So that sounds like an IL stint. Then he kind of jokes with Adam McCalvy about how, it's like, oh, do you need to get someone on a plane here and, in the morning or something? And he's like, well, yeah, they got planes all over the place, Adam. I mean, come on, like that's a new thing that we have, airplanes. Typical Murph fashion, which does mean that he's feeling better after the back surgery and the hip bothering him and all that. But it does sound like it's going to be a roster move here for David Hamilton, who's likely going to need to go on the IL. So that is unfortunate to lose him. Hamilton has been pretty solid there, playing some really good defense, providing a pretty decent spark offensively. Again, I mean, he's not going to be a big power hitter. He's not going to be a massive threat, but the threat of the bunt, he has shown a little bit of pop. The threat of the speed on the bases, that has been, exactly kind of what the Brewers were expecting from him this season. So to lose Hamilton for any length of time, obviously a blow to this group, but it does present an opportunity for someone else to come up from the minor league system. Who that might be, my guess would be Jet Williams. This would be the time that we'll see him because he has the possibility to fit in on that left side of the infield. He's been getting some of the reps at third base, at shortstop. He can play some outfield as well. And also, I mean, Jet Williams has struggled through the early part of the season, but over his last 10 games, Jet Williams has really been turning it on. Over his last 10 games, hitting .351 with a .926 OPS, Jet Williams has been. So Williams has been heating up. Maybe that's a sign, okay, the Brewers could think that he's ready, or at least ready to give him a shot here while Hamilton goes on the IL. You traded Freddie Peralta for him. The Brewers clearly believe in the talent and ability here for Jet Williams. So to give him that opportunity, I think would make a ton of sense. Maybe you could look at Eddie's Leonard if you wanted to. I don't think Brock Wilken has been hitting well enough yet to get called up and get that opportunity at the big league level, but maybe you could go there if you wanted more of a straight third base option. But also you do have Joey Ortiz who can play over there and get quite a bit of time. So you don't necessarily need to rush that, but I think Jet Williams could certainly be deserving of an opportunity. And again, he has been playing very, very well over the last week and a half or so. for the Nashville Sound. So he's on a bit of a hot streak. Maybe try and take advantage of that and see if he can continue it at the big league level, because it does sound like David Hamilton is going to be out for a little bit of time here with that hamstring. So that is an unfortunate blow to him, but could present an opportunity here for this infield. I would expect Jet Williams, but they could look at a couple of different ways. Also, they would need to make a 40-man roster opening. My guess would be Brandon Lockridge to the 60-day. He's already been out, I think, close to 60 days. He's not going to be back until the end of the month. So even still, by the time he's back, it's going to be more than 60 days. So you can feel pretty good about putting him on the 60-day IL to clear that 40-man spot for whoever it is that you need to call up. So that is an opportunity to look at here as well. But you got 2 games coming up here today for the Milwaukee Brewers, and on Kalshi you can trade every single game, and the Brewers not quite able to get the 1.5 runs here for this win over the St. Louis Cardinals, which is a little bit unfortunate there, but still another opportunity here, and you have Jacob Misiorowski on the bump for this one, for Game 1. Certainly of this doubleheader that the Brewers are going to have against St. Louis. And when it's Jacob Misiorowski on the bump, you feel pretty good about the Brewers' chances to win. And the Brewers' chances are currently sitting at 62% on Kalshi, and that means a $100 trade pays out $153 with a win. And, that's, again, it's Jacob Misiorowski bump day. You're feeling pretty good about that coming to fruition there. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position for a limited time. Download the Kalshi app and use this promo code FANARCHBASEBALL to get $10 when you trade 10, Kalshi, Kalshi, trade on anything. All right. It is trade deadline season. We are into July here, and that means the rumors and everything are starting to percolate about teams that are going to be selling, teams that are going to be buying. The Brewers, very obviously, going to be buyers with the position that they are in the NL Central. But the needs, what are they? Who could they end up looking for? The Athletic coming out here, and they had a couple of options for really every single team that they went through. Obviously, what the plans should be for them, and who are some targets, which team should sell, all that kind of stuff. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, the needs that they listed here are obviously, you look at the bullpen, you look at, with Brandon Woodruff out, maybe another rotation arm as well, and the left side of the infield is always one that's kind of talked about. But the top target that they had for the Brewers was actually in the bullpen. Now, the Brewers have had their bullpen depth kind of diminished here over the past, several weeks with injuries, especially to that left-handed relief core. They have lost a ton of guys to injuries there. You look at Robinson Strisny, they haven't been able to have pitch throughout the year. They lost Angel Zerpa for the season. Jared Koenig missed a lot of time, and now he's back, but is he still kind of as effective? So you lose Brian Fitzpatrick for the season with Tommy John surgery. So you've lost a lot of your left-handed relief depth there. So one spot for them to look, according to Jim Bowden of The Athletic, A.J. Minter of the New York Mets. A.J. Minter, left-handed reliever, 32 years old. Minter has been a very effective pitcher for a long time in the major leagues. Coming up with Atlanta back in 2017, had a really, really good long stretch with them, helped them win the World Series in 2021, and he's spent the past 2 years with the Mets. He's dealt with some injuries with them. He had to deal with a surgery, came back in May, and he has looked really good since returning. 15 appearances, a 0.60 ERA. In 15 innings, he's given up 1 earned run, just 1 walk, 11 punch-outs. So Minter has been effective there. He is back, healthy now. He's clearly been looking pretty good there. And he's a left-handed reliever. and the Brewers could kind of use an extra, more reliable one there. And obviously, with him kind of returning from that injury, he doesn't have as much on his arm this season than perhaps some of the other relievers that are out there, because when you look at the reliever trade market, it's always so volatile because all these guys, they've been the best relievers on their team, so they've been used a lot for those teams. So to have a guy who hasn't been used as much and be able to acquire him, that could lead to better results when it comes to actually acquiring them and them being able to help down the stretch. However, the Brewers have also had very poor luck in recent years in terms of their relief acquisitions. Usually they do grab at least one around the trade deadline just to try and fortify the depth in the bullpen. That's usually pretty standard, usually pretty low level kind of trades. You don't have to give up a ton to get them. But that is a way that they could look. It could work out. It could not. It's a relief possibility. But that is something to keep an eye on here. Also, AJ Minter making $11 million this season with the Mets. This is his last year of his contract, so he would be a free agent at the end of the season. My guess is if the Brewers were to acquire Minter, they would want the Mets to kick in a little bit of cash to cover that salary. Just because, $11 million for a reliever. Now, granted, the Brewers would only be paying about a third of that anyways by the time that they acquire him. But still, that'd be quite a bit for a rental to add to the bullpen. So my guess is they would need the Mets to kick in some cash. But the Mets are looking like clear sellers, trying to move off some of these guys. Minter, being a reliever, having that injury history, having that contract, I'm guessing it would not cost a ton in terms of prospect capital, which is good because the Brewers generally don't like to give up prospect capital when it comes to the trade deadline. So that is, I think, a very solid, realistic possibility. It is not the splashy move that everyone would be hoping for, because everyone hopes for a splashy move at the trade deadline. But knowing the Brewers, knowing their history, knowing how they hug their prospects very tightly, I just don't see them making that kind of big splashy move. It's going to be moderate reinforcements around the edges, most likely, and that's where someone like an AJ Minter could fit in. So I think that does make a ton of sense here for what the Brewers could go with, but we still have a couple of weeks to see what ends up happening, what the Brewers end up doing. But my guess is, this could make a ton of sense and could be someone that's on the Brewers' radar, but the Mets would likely have to kick in some cash to cover that contract, because $11 million for a reliever, especially a non-closer, not really what the Brewers like to do. Even if it is prorated and they don't have to pay the whole $11 million, that is a lot for a reliever for them. So they're going to try and make that value balance out somehow, some way. But that is a possibility that Jim Bowden listed over at The Athletic. But the Brewers have several more games to get there, and they're going to be knocking out two of them here today on the schedule, a doubleheader against the Cardinals. And all we know officially heading in is that Jacob Misiorowski is going to be starting game one here for the Crew. And, Miz, again, if they keep him on this regular rest, he would be in line to then start again on Sunday, which would not come out for the All-Star game. But still, Jacob Misiorowski on the bump. You're feeling good about your opportunities, about your chances there to win this ball game. Game 2 is still officially listed as TBA, but this is where you would expect that 27th man to come into play for the Brewers, and Robert Gasser likely getting that start after he was optioned to the Arizona Complex League the other day. So just with him, I think you're going to see Gasser come up. You don't have to wait the 15 days for this because it is a 27th man situation. So you can call him up. He'll be able to pitch that game, and he'll end up going right back down afterwards and return to the minor leagues. But then you can call him back up for the rotation after the All-Star break and not really have to worry about it. So you can get through this stretch without him there. Logan Henderson likely coming back here in the coming days as well. But split doubleheader, Misiorowski game 1, likely Robert Gasser here for game 2. And if you can get if you can straight up sweep this doubleheader, you will have already won the series here against the Cardinals. So that is a very fun possibility to have right there. And also, just kind of a fun nugget here at the end. The Brewers have finally gotten back to 500 as a National League team. Going back to 1998, when they made the switch, when they took this thing national, the last time that they were 500 in the league was that first season when they were 57 and 57 in August. Since then, under 500, and they had a lot of lean years there. 99, early 2000s, a lot of lean years that they were under 500 in the National League. There were 196 games under at one point. And this successful stretch that they have had over the past decade, really, the past 8-9 years, they have gotten themselves all the way back to being 500 as a National League club, despite being nearly 200 games under at one point. So just an incredible stretch. Just kind of goes to prove how successful the Brewers have been over a sustained period of time now to get back to that, because they were so far under for the longest time. So unsuccessful for the longest time. So to be able to get there, huge success. And now it's trying to push your way over 500 and try and keep that the status quo going forward. But the Brewers are on the right path. They need to get some wins here in the doubleheader today. Jacob Mizorowski on the bump, likely Robert Gasser afterwards, and likely a change coming here in the infield with David Hamilton. Probably going to need an IL stint for that hamstring issue. So it could be Jet Williams' season. We shall find out. And once we do, I'll of course be breaking it down on Twitter at dgasper24 and breaking it down here on Brewers Daily. So be sure to subscribe and get notified if you have not already. And appreciate all of you watching and listening. And we'll see you again next time for another episode of Brewers Daily.